if you try to avoid at one emotion, like let's take jealousy, because no one wants to feel jealous, but we do. If we avoid them, we avoid everything. So it's not selective. You cannot say, okay, I don't want to feel sadness and jealousy and fear, but I do want to feel happy and safe and all this. No, it doesn't work like that.
Every day that we're leaning into what mainstream society tells us is the right thing, we're losing our authenticity. We're losing our spark. We're losing our creativity. To your point, there's a price tag for comparison, isn't there?
I think competition kills our soul, our authenticity, everything, our creativity even. Because whenever creativity comes from inside and we want to create something and then we do something, suddenly we stop and then we see, oh, but they did it that way.
The most successful people on this planet are not necessarily the richest or the smartest or the most innovative. It's the ability to be really good with being uncomfortable, because there's only three certainties in life: pain, hard work, and uncertainty.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to our podcast. I'm Monika,
And I'm Erin.
and today we talk all about comparison.
Oh, yes. Toxic comparison, healthy comparison, all things comparison.
Oh, yes. Yes. So, comparison is a thing that everywhere, and I believe in these times even more than it ever was because of social media. And
Absolutely.
yeah. And I think also because there are more possibilities for us or for people to go out there to promote themselves or their business, to be seen in a broader spectrum. But this also means that there is more comparison.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I know a lot of younger or newbie coaches, a lot of people who are newbie entrepreneurs, people who are just kind of getting their legs underneath them. It's intimidating. To your point, this is an era where all things are broadcasted live, and that's got amazing benefits, right? People are able to find help, solve problems, right, in record speed. But the reality is that we as human beings were not, our brain wasn't even isn't programmed, rather, or created to even hold this level of stimulus that's happening 24/7. Mm. And so, yeah, it's really easy to see things right now, and compare yourself, fall victim to that toxic comparison of like, "Ooh, I must not be enough. Ooh, I don't have enough to offer. Ooh, I'm not enough. I'm not enough. I'm not enough. I'm not enough." So, talk to me, Monica. Tell the audience, how would be comparison really wreak havoc in your life?
Well, I mean, like everyone, I think, who goes to school learns to compare because we have to compare. At the beginning, I compared myself, am I the best? Can I have the best grades? And later it was all about being the most beautiful or the most popular, where for a
Yeah,
long time was definitely not the one, but I always wanted to. And then, it's always a comparison no matter what we take, which topic we take. And it's competitive. This world is competitive. And that's how I learned it. And that's how I did it a long time in my life. However, I don't believe it anymore. I
yeah,
don't believe that everything is about competition. I don't believe in competition. I think competition kills our soul, our authenticity, everything, our creativity even. Because whenever creativity comes from inside and we want to create something and then we do something, suddenly we stop and then we see, oh, but they did it that way. And oh my God, she looks so beautiful. And oh my God, she has so many followers. I have to do it like her. Why did she get so many followers? How did she do that? Blah, 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 blah. And there it goes. So what we do, we throw all our creativity in the bin in order
yep.
to become whatever we think then this person has.
That's so
So,
true. So basically, authenticity is destroying or rather, comparison is destroying our authenticity.
oh, yes, yes,
Ab
yes. The thing it really it in this society it also gets very pushed. We have to compare. 'Cause otherwise, how can you sell your services, or how can you be the one who is seen? I don't believe in that. What I believe in is like we can only grow together. Like,
Yeah. As you were talking, I was thinking about how the society in general, it really does glorify independent contribution versus group, right? Versus what's great for everybody. Um, which is interesting because we're pack animals. Like we're designed for interconnectedness, but yet we live in a society that's all about, what are you contributing? Are you enough? Are you at the top? Like, even down to sports. I remember watching a movie. Oh gosh, it was with Brad Pitt. It's something like 7 Days in Tibet or something like that. It's an older movie, but he is in Tibet and there's a woman in, I guess he's this amazing climber. He climbs mountains and he's won all these Olympic awards and medals and stuff like that. And so he was telling this Tibetan woman about all of his accomplishments, to which she replied, "I don't understand your culture." And he said, "Well, what do you mean?" And she said, "Because we would never glorify individual contribution because we're meant to work together to achieve the greatest good." And that really hit me because other countries, they don't even acknowledge, right? Like a place like that that really values interconnectedness, they don't even acknowledge individual contribution. And when you think about it, like the tribes, the Native Americans, that's all interconnected living. Um, and that's not something that mainstream society really puts value on. But to your point, every day that we're leaning into what mainstream society tells us is the right thing, we're losing our authenticity. We're losing our spark. We're losing our creativity. To your point, there's a price tag for comparison, isn't there?
yeah, yes. Oh, I love that movie. I haven't seen it, but when you described it, that's so true. It's like really weird. Why should we isolate ourselves? And this is what we do with comparison. We cut off every connection, and we are then alone. Do we like to feel alone and isolated? No.
No, I was just doing filming a little short video on depression and how it's usually contributed or caused by three major contributors, one of which is disconnection from other people.
Mhm.
So it's a fast
Yeah.
track, right? Society's like, do it this way. But it's also pushing you into an army of one, right? That
Mhm.
it's interesting when you think about that, how society's telling us how to do things and it's actually not serving us. It's actually hurting us more as a society.
Yeah. And I love also to go back some steps. What you said before was like, we are so overloaded with this
Yeah.
information now in these days. And
Hmm.
now our brain has to pick some. And so there is a filter. And the filter for everyone is our programming, our belief
Yes.
system. Because that's also something which makes us compare. We compare our worst picture with the wedding picture of someone else, and
Yeah.
then we feel bad. And then we project everything which is inside of us to this person we don't know even.
Yeah.
And we feel jealous and envious and all these things because we project all our patterns, all our programming, all our belief of not being enough, of not being lovable, of not being beautiful enough and bright enough and whatever it is on the other person. And we take it for reality because we don't understand that there is no reality. The reality we project is everything which comes from inside out. And what comes from inside out is filtered. every programming we have in there. So
That's
that's also something we have to think about in that way. When we compare, it doesn't make sense because it's just our perspective.
exactly. And the interesting thing about, and I love the fact you brought up programming, is because guess what? That programming then programs our children to do the
Oh, yeah.
exact same thing. And the cycle continues. The cycle continues. I mean, you think about it, even just how we're programmed, by our parents or conditioned by our parents to, look a certain way, right? Or to act a certain way, right? Um, that's our filter. That's our identity. And then we put that on everybody else versus why are we not telling our children to, focus on how people feel, focus on, how they feel when they're around you, focus on what they're doing with their lives versus, oh, how is she dressed? How is he dressed? How, what accomplishments do they have? What if, how much money do they have? How are they presenting on camera? Like, so it's
Mm.
just recognize you're so right. We have these belief systems all locked in from, childhood or whatnot. And then we just continue the pattern and it's like a self perpetuating cycle.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Trying to again. And I know you have a brother, and I
Right.
also grew up with siblings. I don't know how was it in your household. Did your parents compare you and your brother?
Now, and
No.
the reason why is because my brother and I were polar opposites. And but you know what? I think that I don't know that I was consciously aware that they were comparing, but I definitely know that my brother was always comparing himself to me. I know that as an adult because we had to have some really tough conversations because our relationship was really strained. There's 7 years between us, and I was always that child that was overachiever in all the activities and super nerd, like super smart, super brainiac, little Miss Social Butterfly. My brother was more, uh, he wasn't as outgoing. He was more introverted than I was. And he was also really, really brilliant with all things like building things and creating things and just very hands-on. Where I was book smart, he was very hands-on, brilliant in his own right. Felt actually bad for my parents. They didn't know how to parent us. They thought they got it with me, and then Brian came and they were like, what do we do with this kid? But to your point, he grew up in a household where he always saw mom and dad praising me, and
Oh,
they didn't know how to raise him. So he, to your point, he created this belief system, which is bullshit, of I need to be like more like my sister in order to get approval, in order to get love. When the reality is I could never do the things he does because he's brilliant. We weren't supposed to be able to do the same things, right? We offer different gifts to the world. But yeah, it's that lens of comparison that I think really did a number on his self-esteem growing up. So,
mhm.
so I
Yeah.
love that because that's
Yeah,
a
it's
real.
interesting. I saw it also. I mean, I grew up with three siblings,
Mhm.
two older, one younger. I mean, one older brother, one older sister, and one younger sister. And I mean, I think my mom, she didn't do it, of course, not on purpose, but it was just like how she learned it also from her mother and how they look what they do. You see, he has it already done and you don't. And
Yeah,
all these things. And this is so toxic. And
yeah,
well, this is happening at school even more. Like
yeah,
you have then 20 or 30 kids in the class where they can compare it to the look at Tom. He did it so brilliantly. So why can't you all do it like that? And then everyone is like getting taught how to compare and how to compete. And then there's the sports competitions at school where you have to be the best. And then all these
yeah,
competitions and all that stuff. And I mean, there are people who say, well, we need also this competition in order to get inspired. And maybe for some people that works. But for me, personally, I really talk now personally. This is something where I get demotivated and I don't like it because I don't want to be separate. I want to be together with all of
Yeah.
my brothers and sisters and celebrate their success like it was mine.
Yeah, it's so true. And I love the quote that's like, no great man or woman ever got to the top without standing, or I think on the shoulders of giants or something like that. Do you know the quote I'm talking about? Right. Where we don't get to the top without other people. We don't achieve without other people. So yeah, I love that. I agree with you. You
Mm.
know,
And then
build each
also,
other.
it doesn't, I mean, if we think it to the end, like comparison, it's ridiculous. Because what we then do is like someone has a success and then we feel this envy or jealousy or whatever it is that comes up, or we just want to be there, or I'm only there and she's already there.
Mhm.
Now, then we have to ask ourselves the question, what do you want? You want to have her success. You want to live her life. You want to be in her shoes, in her body, in her whatever it is. That's just
Yeah.
no, at the end, no, I don't want to. And then also, how can we compare ourselves to anyone else when we know that even not twins are the same? They are so different, even they look
Yeah.
more similar. But
Yeah.
no two people are the same. So how can we compare ourselves? I mean, we do not compare an apple and a banana too, because they're
Yeah.
just different. So how can we compare ourselves with people when we know they are
It's
so different? That's just not that's ridiculous.
it's so true. As you were talking, I was writing down because I piggybacking off something you said. But yeah, comparison in a lot of ways, it fuels the ego, right? It fuels ego, and ego, as we know, it will never serve you in the long run. Ego is mm, right because only the ego is afraid of failure,
Mm, yeah.
right? So I can't remember what it was you said that, but I'm like, oh, that's a good point. And I wrote down, um, yeah,
Yeah, a lot. What do you mean by ego?
the ego is basically like our identity, the lens to which we filter, right? That's
Yes,
what my opinion ego is, the lens to which we filter.
exactly. This is also, yeah, no, because this word is so overused also
No.
recently in these days that everyone has another and like uses it differently, but I see it the same, like our protection, our subjective view of the world, which we then think that's it. Only what we say is true, and what we believe is true, and what we think is
Yeah,
true. And
because
that makes
ego
all
needs validation, to your point, right? Ego needs validation, right? If they agree with me, if they like my post, if they think I'm pretty, if they are envious of my grades, whatever the thing is, then I'm worthy, right? Ego is all about well, ego will, as I tell my clients, ego will screw you every day of the week, right? What you're saying, which I love so much, is that a next level, right? A level of interconnectedness, a level of authenticity, peace, love, all the warm and fuzzy emotions, places that we love. That's all filtered through this, not ego, right? That's all filtered through. No, we're all brothers and sisters and we're trying to make this world a better place, right? I'm happy for her success. I'm happy for his new job. I'm happy for his, right? Whatever the thing is, that's a place from a place of interconnectedness. But ego is the one that will always go for, I need validation. I need to be like this person so that I feel I'm enough. And that's what so many of us do. They go through life looking for validation that they're worthy, that they're enough,
Oh, yes.
right? That they're just seeking validation everywhere. But that's all stemming from ego. To which would reply back, your lens is foggy. We need to tap into who you authentically are, who you were when you were a baby, right? You're born
Ah,
perfect.
that's so true. Yeah. You know, when you say this, we always talk in these days about we have to fill up our cup, otherwise we cannot give anyone else. But I hear the Buddhist saying, and it says, you have to empty your cup. And the
Yeah.
reason why is because they say you when you're born, your cup is empty. And then you fill it with experiences, beliefs,
Mm,
yeah, like all these things you put on, layers,
yeah.
and then you don't know who you are anymore. So you
Amen.
have to put away one layer after the other, and you have to empty your cup,
Mm,
basically, to find your pure version of the you, how you came on earth.
absolutely. I agree. It's almost like really finding yourself, especially as an adult. It's almost like dismantling every single belief system that you have and really cutting back to the roots of like, does this light me up? Is it really align with who I am? And so many people don't do that, right? That's an unexamined life, and that is a life that's not fulfilled,
Mm.
right? But it's so true. It's stripping away all the bullshit, all the belief systems, all the judgments, judgment of self, judgment of others, to really getting to the core of like, is this really aligned with who I am? That's
Mm.
that that's not coming from a place of ego. That's a place of authenticity. But that's the thing. Most people don't have an examined life. And to your point, they just keep going, just that ego just keeps searching everywhere, everywhere. Well, if I do this, I'll be better. If I am this, I'm going to be enough. If I do this, I'll have more happiness. And those people are, right? They're often end up being our clients, do they not?
Oh, yes. Yes,
Yeah.
of course. And then they come and feel empty and they hate themselves and they can't find love. Well, because they don't know how to love themselves first. They feel not enough. And Erin, what do you think? I mean, there are people who come to us, yes. That means they already are aware about
Yeah.
there's something going on and you have to take out some layers or there's something in the belief system where they need help with. But how do you think, or is it possible for people at the first place to even find out that there's something off? Like
Mm.
many people run around and they're not even aware of what they are doing. They just feel horrible, but they don't know how to get there or what it is. They don't link it together with something.
Yeah. They don't. What I always say to people, if you're not lit up, if you're not excited about everything that's on in your life, if you're not finding the blessings even in the pain, if you're just stuck, your emotions are always telling you that. Now, there's a whole nother side to it if you're avoiding. Right? A lot of us do that. We are programmed as little people of like, I'm not going to deal with this. It's too painful. So I'm just going to keep moving. Right? Even busyness is an avoidance tactic. Right? I'm so busy. I've got all these things going on. Even that's an avoidance tactic. Who you are, your highest self, your intuition, whatever you want to call it, it's very much a part of every single one of us. But it really comes down to creating that stillness in your life to tap into all of those emotions that we're not listening to. And that's really scary for a lot of people, which I completely understand. But I know it's like anything else. The fastest way through the storm is to just go head on into the storm, right? Most people struggle with that. But if you're feeling unhappiness on a daily, that your emotions are telling you, obviously, they're just messengers. They're telling you there's an issue. But the next step is consciously leaning into, okay, well, let me sit with these emotions, which modern day society tells us you don't need to do that. Avoid, avoid, avoid. Put on the next Netflix series and binge watch it, or, like go out and party, get drunk, whatever the thing is, right? That's what society tells you. Have that quick hit of dopamine, right? We live in a society that doesn't focus on long term, just immediate gratification. And that's why so many people are in pain and struggling and comparing, right? You need to actively create that space to sit in those feelings because they're messengers telling you that something needs to be fixed. Something's out of alignment. And most people, again, don't do the introspective work of like, okay, I'm feeling angry all the time. What's underneath that? I'm feeling sad all the time. What's underneath that? I'm feeling anxious all the time. therapy hasn't helped. What's underneath that? Right. But your feelings always tell you when something's wrong. The question is, are you creating the space and the stillness to examine what's underneath those feelings?
Mm,
And
I
I might have just gone completely off topic, but
no, I'm not. No, there is no topic. We just. I mean, I love every word you said, and I cannot agree more with what you said. This is always also what I see. Like we need to create stillness and space to allow whatever it is that I mean, there are our emotions with this flag, like waving, please, please, attention. But we are
yeah.
just numbing them and avoid them. But
Mhm.
that's the only way. I totally agree. We have to create stillness to become aware of what's going on and then examine what's there, reflect on that. And that's the only thing. And there is fear, there is sadness, whatever is there. And especially when we compare,
Yeah.
there is jealousy, there is envy. And this is also something what, especially in the spiritual world, people avoid. Like, yes, I love to feel happy and I love to feel in balance and all is good and nice. But they will, like a lot of people, they say like jealousy and envy and all this, that's bad. I'm not. I don't have these negative, these dark emotions. Well, that's a lie because we all have this. I've never met a person who was not jealous, one.
Amen.
And if you try to avoid that one emotion, like let's take jealousy, because no one wants to feel jealous, but we do. If we avoid them, we avoid everything. So it's not selective. You cannot say, okay, I don't want to feel sadness and jealousy and fear, but I do want to feel happy and safe and all this. No, it doesn't work like that. Emotions are emotions and they're just energy. And we cannot make them away. Energy is not created. Like Albert Einstein also says, energy does not get created and it does not get destroyed. It just gets changed. And how do
Yeah.
we change it? Well, paying attention, like feeling it. Like you said, I loved it so much when you said there is an emotion and that's an indicator for, okay, what's going on there? So there is jealousy. We compare ourselves, there is jealousy. Now, what does it tell me? And I always say that's how I dealt also with my jealousy, with that
Hmm.
jealousy I felt. And I mean, we all do. That like, okay, there is jealousy. Now, I use it as a teacher. What does
Yeah.
it want me to show? And then there are so many things come up. And what it always shows us, it's a sign. It points us to what we want. Well, I'm
Mm.
jealous of her success. Well, it means what do I want? What is it that I admire actually? And can I
Mm.
first I have to sit with the jealousy. I have to embrace it. I have to be there. I have to love it like as a part of me and not try to push it away. And also examine where does it come from. And once
Yeah.
I've done that, I can reframe it and say, okay, now I know where I want to go, where she is. What do I want? What she has. And
Yep.
then, and I believe what I've experienced in myself when I do this work, and once I come to that point where I see like this person where I was jealous before and I work through all the layers, and then I say, well, actually, what I want is also a YouTube channel or whatever
Yep.
it is. And then now I have a sign and now I have a direction for my next step. And so we can use it as a teacher also. And that's how we can use comparison actually.
I love that because there's a framework that I teach, and you just completely captured it. But I always tell people there's three things you ask yourself when you're stuck in this negative cycle of comparison and things like that is what's my vision for my future? Right? What place am I operating from? Are you operating from the place, that myopic vision of your past, right? Who you used to be, struggles you had in the past? Or are you operating from the place of what your potential is, your highest version, right? And then the third thing I asked them is, what are you doing to create release? What are you doing to create stillness? So you can really, really embody all of that. So that you kind of summed it up brilliantly of like, again, those feelings are indicators of which direction you go. But I just wanted to throw that in there too of like, what place are you operating from? Right? Are your past stories literally indicating where you're going to go in the future? Right? Are you putting ceilings and limits on yourself already right out of the gate before you even left the gate? Or are you operating from a place of, ooh, I could be amazing. I could be because I get to choose which direction. Am I going to argue for my limitations or am I going to agree with God, future, whatever you believe in, source, the highest version of self about your potential and then grow into it? And then how do you create that stillness to release the tension, release the negativity, release all the things, right? That's the one thing. And then the other thing that I talk to people about is to your point, being overly positive, like toxic, I call it toxic positivity, right? Or even, I'm going to say it, even a lot of spiritual people, right? They use that as an escape, as a coping
Oh,
mechanism.
yes. Yes,
Wait,
that's
are you?
avoidance.
Mhm. There it is again, right? The avoidance. Um, so I think they do go hand in glove, right? Because not every day is sunshine and butterflies, right? There's some genuinely shitty days occasionally, right? But every single shitty day, there's God. There has beauty and opportunity in it if we're looking for it, right? If we create space to reflect. And that's it.
I love that. Yes. And if we create everything you said, if we create space, if we're looking at it, and if we are willing to go down deep to these uncomfortable emotions we don't like to feel, and we feel ashamed of, maybe then also when we, especially in the spiritual world, say, "Well, I'm jealous." Who wants to say that? No one wants to be jealous. I don't want to be jealous.
No,
I don't choose to,
no.
but that's just what happens. And then, well, now I can embrace it. I still hate it. I still don't like it. But
Yeah.
there it is. And then, okay, well, here you are again. Let's go. Now we have to do some work to do.
Yeah. It's so true. We have to look at the monster under the bed in order to kind of move forward. And most people don't like to they don't like to be uncomfortable. But I always tell people the most successful people on this planet are not necessarily the richest or the smartest or the most innovative. It's the ability to be really good with being uncomfortable because
Mm.
there's only three certainties in life: pain, hard work, and uncertainty. So if you get really good at uncertainty and really good at being uncomfortable, including feeling all your feelings, right? You're going to be ahead of most people in this lifetime. There is a study, they looked at imposter syndrome, right? Which is all about comparing yourself to other people and feeling not enough. And it was this phenomenon, I call it the imposter phenomenon. They found that when they did this study, all of these people that were in the same space felt the exact same way, but nobody was talking about it with the other people. That's called pluralistic ignorance. So all of these people were feeling the exact same way and nobody knew it. So they're all isolating themselves, right? Disconnecting, right? We were talking about that earlier. And they were all feeling the exact same thing. We're human. To your point, feeling shame. Why do we have to feel shame? We all feel the same things. Why do we? Okay, you feel envious, you feel jealous, you feel angry. Totally normal. Totally normal. Why are we not normalizing our feelings? Why are we not normalizing what it means to be a human being? Why are we not doing that as a society? Right? You feel like crap because your boyfriend left you for another woman. That sucks. You're allowed to feel sad. You're allowed to feel shame. You're allowed to feel not enough for a minute, right? why are we doing that to ourselves? Goes back to society and, to your point, programming.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes. And it gets even more and more. And then we have all this social media. There we see all the other people and it triggers our not enoughness even more. And then we go, so every time we compare ourselves, we step out our authenticity and we step out of ourselves. We abandon ourselves. So for other people, we want to be suddenly like this person. So we are neglecting ourselves. We abandon ourselves. And we are away from what we actually are, from our authenticity. And as I said before, our creativity, of course, because we cannot create when we are not there. And so we try then this game of becoming someone so hardly. And of course, it doesn't work because we cannot become someone, but this is still the image we get and the message we get is like you have to look that way, you have to do this in order to be successful, in order to feel beautiful and loved and enough and everything. But that's just not true. That's a big lie. You have to be just who you are. And you always have, that's a choice. It's also a choice to become aware. It's also a choice to find the stillness. It's a choice to
Yeah.
not compare, but to always choose yourself before anyone else. Well, maybe you find she has more success than you, but is this really true? Now I go to the work of Byron Katie. We have really to examine what's going on there and
Yeah.
question and challenge these stories because it's all stories that come up, like so many stories. And because of that stories, we feel bad. If there weren't these stories, we would feel just okay because would be just that what is. And there were no comparison. Comparison is a big convolute of stories.
Yeah. Totally. Absolutely. I love so much it hit me a certain kind of way how you said abandonment of self. Like we're abandoning ourselves. I think I heard a statistic and I can't remember the exact numbers, but it was basically like if you knew the amount of energy that the universe took to create you, right? How many people in your lineage came before you that had to come before you so that you could exist, then you would never look at yourself the same way again. You're a miracle. You're a creation. Like it's unbelievable when you think about it. And going back to abandonment of self, right? All the universe, all this energy came into play to put you in this place, in this time, in this moment, in this body, in this form. And then we spend most of our life trying to be something else. Why? So sad,
Yes.
right? It's so sad because when you think about all the most remarkable people that you've ever met, people that you admire, people that you aspire to emulate and be like, most of them are messy and real, right? Most of them are not curated and have an amazing career. Like most of them don't have that story. And so you have to ask yourself, why? Then why are we all trying to be something we're not? Why are we abandoning that beautiful baby that we were born?
Mm, that's
It's
so.
crazy.
I love that how you really illustrated it. It's like there are generations and generations and generations and so much work to get us there like we are. And then we go and say, no, I want to be this one.
Um, right?
No. And this one says, I want to be that one. So it's like, I mean, so it's just a ridiculous circle. And it contributes to this math confusion where we just waste so much energy in anything but doing what we are meant to do. And
Amen.
like when we compare ourselves, I love the visual, like, in these old days when there were these phone centers, like in grandma's, and they had all these cables, and someone would call and there's
Mhm.
plugged in all
Yeah.
these different cables now. how I like to illustrate comparison is whenever we compare ourselves, we take one cable and plug it in, and the energy goes to out. And then we compare to someone else, and then we compare again. And all the energy flows out to
Yeah.
compare, to create more pain. And and the, uh, it's so absurd because the energy, if it would at least benefit that person, we compare ourselves, but it doesn't because she has no idea. Now, what we have to do is we have to take one cable after the other back and plug it in back so that all the energy comes back in to ourselves. For what? Well, in order to use it to create what we are meant to create, our purpose, what we are meant to do. We came here, all this hard work to create us, but not just for fun, because we have something to do, something to accomplish. How do we know? Well, if we feel, going back to the emotions as an indicator, that this is not our life and empty, well, guess what? You're not doing what you're supposed to do. So maybe there is something to examine, to look at, okay, where did I abandon myself? Where did the energy flow out? How can I get rid of those layers, those stories telling me that I'm not good enough or I should be this or he or her or whatever it is? And then we have the energy and then we do once we have put off all the layers, then we do what we like, what we really like. What did we
Yeah.
like when we were really small, like really small? Like what were our natural interests? What did we
Mm.
like? And then we do what we like. And if it doesn't feel good, guess what? You change direction, then you go. But like pleasure is an indicator and passion is an indicator. What we like
Yep.
is on purpose. What we dislike is on purpose. What we get attracted to is on purpose. And what we get where we have a little distance, it's on purpose because this all guides our way as long as we listen to ourselves. And then we can use all the energy we wasted for comparison to walk our path and to live in purpose.
I love that so much. And I was just thinking, all of us have a gift to bring to this world, every single one of us. I mean, the universe doesn't make mistakes, God doesn't make mistakes, whatever you believe in. And we all have this divine purpose. Most people they have midlife crisis, and that's what it is. They recognize, oh my gosh, is this all there is? I don't feel lit up. I don't feel like I've had an amazing life. I don't, right? They're disconnected because it's an unexamined life, to your point. And that's what midlife crisis is all about. But I'm going to pose a really provocative question, point, whatever, of do you think that maybe knowing that each one of us is divinely created, right? It's our birthright to have a phenomenal life and to do good in this world and to be good in this world. Do you think society on purpose tries to keep us in this loop so that, I mean, could you imagine if everybody just one day said, wait, I'm going to actually not abandon myself. I'm actually going to examine my life. I'm going to do the heavy lift. I'm going to realign with who I authentically am. Wow, would that turn society on its side, wouldn't it?
Mhm. Yes, of course. Because, I mean, and I think also this is what we have to do when we see, okay, there is something not going right in the society. But the only thing we can change, and this is always only what we can change is what's going on inside of us. So whenever we want to change society, well, this is first, or this is the only way you can change society when you work on yourself. You want to stop the comparison and all this toxic behavior. Well, stop yourself first. Now go
Yeah.
in, look at it, and see what's there. How, and whenever you see someone triggering you or comparing or is jealous, well, where is this within you? Is there something? Maybe it's pointing on there, and that's why you get triggered. Is there maybe something that wants to get released? It wants to get transformed?
Yeah. Geez,
So
I mean, I'm thinking down to the first time we did a video together, right? I was like, "Ooh, let me put on a filter. Let me do all these things," right? Because already didn't even do it yet, but I was already thinking about how will other people view me, right? I mean, it happens so subtly, like, but it happens. And I remember looking back at that initial video and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so filtered." And I don't want to be that. I don't want to be anything other than who I am, right? I mean, minus like some Botox here or there because it's but it's true. It's true. You know, we do it so frequently and we're not even aware a lot of times that we're even doing this. So
yes. And by doing that, well, that might sound like, okay, we are all screwed. No, it's not. Every time we catch ourselves doing this, that's great, amazing. There is the opportunity. Now there is the opportunity to grow. So every time we compare, there opens a door. And now you have the choice. You're gonna go this door, you follow the way to comparison, like wasting your energy, feeling crap and all that, or you open the door of inside, going inside. Oh, what is it now? Actually, like
yeah,
we talked before, the layers. What is it that needs love within me? Which part now needs love from me and my presence to get
yeah,
worked on? And
absolutely.
that's the thing. So what you said before is like, I mean, society is society. Can we change it? Not how we think. How can we change it? By ourselves, by working on ourselves, by like being still, looking what's there, and giving ourselves the love and attention we need. Because guess what happens when we do that? It will start a movement. And then we
Yep.
can work with people like we do every day. But we can only do this because we've done it ourselves first. It's not something we learn theoretically, but it came all from suffering.
Oh yeah.
And then we overcame it. Now we show people how we did it. But that's how it works. That's how, and I believe, but it's my opinion, the only way we can change society is when we start working on ourselves.
Oh, I completely agree with that. 100%. And also too, you know, and this goes hand in glove with the introspective work. Really be honest with yourself about the circle that you keep, right? Always be really real with yourself about the circle that you keep because, right, I know you've heard the quote, you want to change your life, change your circle of people, right? I've seen this so often. I work with a lot of executives in tech companies and things like that. And in today's market, it's amazing how many clients will be riddled with anxiety about like, oh, well, the market, going back to your point, Monica, about the stories we tell ourselves, right? It's impossible to get a job. And they'll be riddled with anxiety. The first thing I ask them, okay, where is this stemming from? When do you find yourself most anxious? Be like, oh, well, it's at the lunchroom, right? It's with my coworkers, right? It's be careful what you're feeding yourself, whether that be friends, content, TV. Like, really look at everything you're consuming because that all also adds to this disconnect and this abandonment of self. I use the saying of this analogy of crabs in a bucket. I don't know if you've ever heard this analogy. It's pretty funny. So my brother and I decided one year we were going to go crabbing. I'd never gone crabbing. It's kind of disgusting, actually. You take a stick and you put a string on it and you like tie a chicken bone or something gruff like on it, and you dump it off the side of a dock. And then these crabs just grab onto it and you pull them up and drop them in the bucket. So I'm really competitive. So my brother and I had this whole competition all day long. And at one point, I just stopped and I was staring at the bucket. And he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "It's fascinating to watch these crabs because as soon as one figures out how to get out of the bucket, all the other crabs pull them back down." So this whole time, even though most of them, because this bucket was full by like 4 hours in, none of them escaped. Freedom was right there, but none of them had escaped because they kept getting pulled back down, pulled back down, pulled back down. So to your point of like your healing journey, like when you do the work, when you're starting to do the work to find your authentic happiness, be aware of your environment. And that includes family, friends, coworkers, right? Because when you evolve, when you start to evolve and when you start to level up and when you start to step into that next frequency, not everybody's meant to go on that journey. Just to be aware that that is a casualty of growth. And I always tell clients that just be aware.
Yeah.
As you change, people, your relationships are going to change too.
Oh, yes, so much. Because what I also see with people who change, who work with, then suddenly they say, well, now I did all the work. And then I go to my partner and then he says this and that. And again, blah, blah, blah. And I said, yeah, but remember, you were there with me every week and he was not. So how do you expect him to make the same change like you did?
Yeah.
And also, it's always an indicator a little bit, but like, again, that's not our business. We can only change ourselves. And that by that, we inspire those people who are ready to do the same.
Yeah.
Either they come with us and they upgrade with us, or either they choose not to. And then it's our choice also who we invite into our lives. And
And
again, talking about staying true to ourselves, like not abandoning ourselves for anyone. Now, from that place, like being really you and authentic, if there was no fear, who would you choose and invite into your lives then? And this could only be someone who is celebrating you and
amen.
who you are celebrating for your successes and who is there for you when you are dark down there and the other way around also. So there again, we come to that, what I said also before, what I believe in is not comparison, but I believe that we grow together, like in this sisterhood and brotherhood. Like we are one, and
Like
only then
Avatar.
we can.
Yeah. Like
Say it again.
Avatar, right? Remember the movie Avatar?
I've never seen it because I hardly watch movies, but
Homework.
I hear a lot about it. I don't know what it's about, but but I really believe in that. Like you said, also like all these tribes and all these ancient cultures. There's a reason for that, and that's how we are meant to live. And there we have to also decide, okay, now my whole life, when I was unhealthy, when I abandoned myself, when I was cruel to myself, when I self-sabotaged, I was with all these people. Now when I upgrade, suddenly they get triggered by who am I now? Well, then ask yourself, what do you want? There's a
Exactly.
choice to make.
Yeah. The people who truly love you, who truly have your best interest, they will always root for your rise, right?
Exactly.
People who are still stuck in a place of ego, they may not. And you know what? As you're growing, those are people that maybe that your path, your journey with them has an expiration date. And that there's nothing wrong with that, right?
Yeah.
Everything in this lifetime has expiration date. Right? Everything dies eventually, right? And same is true with relationships. And that's normal. That's a perfect cycle of life. And it's
Mhm.
just accepting what is for you and letting go of what is not for you. And sometimes
Yeah,
it's really hard to do, but necessary. Yeah.
exactly. And accepting, embracing what is, it's also an antidote of comparison. Well,
Yeah.
yes, she is so beautiful. Well, great. Amazing. I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But once we see it really as that, like, first of all, we are all interconnected. And
Yeah.
secondly, what we said, like, how can we compare an apple with a banana? And
Exactly.
the hard work, the universe did, the God or whoever you believe in, and
Yeah.
then you want someone else. But when we really can say, wow, you are so successful and so beautiful. And I love you so much that I celebrate this because at the end, it's also my success because we are
Amen.
all together. Then I think we can all grow, and that's the only way to grow.
I agree. And I want to throw in there again in this society that's bucking the system, right? It's being a disruptor of the system because right, the society says no, only one person can be at the top, right? There can only be one leader, right? Um, but to your point, no, that's not how we were created. We're pack animals, right? We're all rowing. We should all be rowing for the same team. We should all be celebrating each other, picking each other up when we fall. That's the fastest way to achieve what really matters in life.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it is very much as bucking the system, but it is absolutely necessary for a filled cup.
Yes, yes. And now, when we also go back to these perceptions, like imagine now you compare yourself, but then you understand you compare yourself to something you create because it's everything you experience is through this filter or this
Yeah.
projector of your belief system. How stupid is that? I mean, come on. It's
Oh,
you. If
mhm.
you compare yourself, it's reflecting to you. If you get triggered by this person, it's reflecting to you. So it's not even real. Now,
True.
knowing that, why don't we choose that makes us feel good? And that can only be looking at others again, like, oh my God, it's amazing. We did this. We had this success. She has the success. Success means we grow
Yeah.
as a
We
society.
grow.
This is how society evolves.
Mhm. Absolutely. I always tell clients because I do this, true is true, I do this. I call them moments of radical honesty. And so anytime I find myself comparing, even sometimes it's looking in the mirror at myself going, you put on weight or you're having a really ugly moment in life. Because I'm sorry, I can own that. I definitely have struggled with vanity and things like that. I know my truth. Even comparing with yourself, it's having the ability to just kind of stand back and saying, but if I'm being radically honest with myself, where what emphasis did I put on XYZ that's making me upset? Right? Did I really, really what was my number one priority the last couple weeks? Well, my best friend was in town. I haven't seen her in a million years. So like we went out and lived our best lives, right? And I wasn't going to the gym or whatever that looks like. If looking at your values, looking at where your time is actually spent, and then saying, but to your point, I know who I am. So how do I just get to where I want to get? Okay, maybe I'm feeling like I want to be more like this person, but like, where is that coming from? Where is an area in my life that's not fulfilled? Right. And then how do I get there? Because I'm pretty awesome, pretty smart. I've accomplished most things I wanted. So how do I get there? And that momentum just blows out of the water any anxiety, any depression, anything, because action movement, even if it's small movement, right? You only stumble when you stop. It's okay if you, right? It's okay if you mess up. It's okay if you don't get it right. But you only really feel all those feelings of anxiety, depression, all if you stop moving, right? If you stop moving towards something. So it's just, again, going back to doing that radical honesty of like, okay, but where's the root? What's the root cause? And I think that most people just, again, it goes back to introspection. They don't take time. They don't create the stillness to really uncover the root cause. Once you uncover the root cause, what can you do? What can you figure out? Right? You
Exactly.
got every resource known to man at your fingertips, right? Got the interweb.
Now, well, maybe some people who are watching or listening to this podcast, maybe now they know whenever they feel a little bit off and confused. So this was also for me when there were some points where I felt so confused. I was like, oh my God, what's going on? And that was always an indicator for me that I abandoned myself somewhere. I lost myself somewhere. So I had to go back and look, where did I lose myself? All the way back, like you lose a key or something, and then you
Mhm.
go back and then you do the work. So whenever you feel a little bit off, it's not like doing more in the sense of outside or becoming more the other person. It's more like going in and first of all doing less, creating
Amen.
less space, then going more. And
Yes.
inside is the work.
Preach. I don't think we could end on a better note than that, right? Whenever you're spinning out, that it's looking inward that's going to create the happiness.
Amazing. Oh my God,
So
that was such an amazing conversation. I love it every time.
now I think honestly, yeah, I think that was our best one yet.
Yes. And it's only the second.
We're nailed it.